Hello everyone and welcome back to Beatley Tone's Beatles channel. Lovely to have you here. Thanks for joining me for this video and I hope you're all doing well. Now in today's video I'm going to be doing another deep dive review into one of the albums, and we had a little poll a few weeks ago and the wonderful people of this channel voted on which album I would review next, and I gave you one from John, one from Paul, one from George and one from Ringo, and you, although not unanimously, you voted for this album, Wings at the Speed of Sound from 1976. That got 46% of the vote, beating off George Harrison's Somewhere in England, which got about 26%. I think Milk and Honey got about 20%, and Ringo's Rotogravure only got 9%. Poor old Ringo. I'm going to have to do a Ringo album one day, so think on. Anyway, if you've been watching these reviews that I've been doing, you'll know the kind of format by now. We're going to look at every track on the album. We're going to give it a score out of 10. We're going to add up all the scores at the end, divide it by the number of tracks on the album to get an average score from the album. And then we're going to plonk it into my Beatley Tone's great big album review ranking table, which at the moment is looking a little bit sparse. It looks like this, and we'll see where Wings of the Speed of Sound comes on that list. And we're doing it like this, so we're mixing all the solo albums and all the Beatles albums in together, ranking them all eventually, and because everybody needs to know whether Buckaroo of Blues is a better album than With the Beatles or something like that. So that's what we're going to do. So Wings at the Speed of Sound, it was Wings' 5th album, or Paul's 7th album since leaving the Beatles, and the second album made by Wings Mark V, which was Paul and Linda and Denny Laine on guitar, Jimmy McCulloch on lead guitar and Joe English on drums. Now, the album did very well. It got to #1 in the US and Canada, got to #2 in the UK and Australia, and yielded 2 very big hit singles in Let 'Em In and Silly Love Songs. So the album did very well, but generally this album is not that well regarded by fans, I get the feeling, and I'll tell you what I think about it in a minute. But it's a little bit of background information about the recording of the album. It started life in early 1975, where they went in the studio, recorded the basic tracks for Beware My Love. They then had to stop that, get themselves over to Australia to start the first leg of the world tour, which began in November 1975. They were there for 2 weeks. While they were there, they heard that the next leg of the tour, which was due to be Japan, had been cancelled because Paul's visa had been revoked when they realised that he had a drug bust in 1973. So those plans were cancelled. They had a bit of time on their hand. Paul and Linda went to Hawaii for a little holiday. That's where he wrote Silly Love Songs. And then they went up to New York. They saw John Lennon. Then they flew home for Christmas. In January 1976, they went into the studio at Abbey Road, and they were there for 2 months. January and February 1976, they recorded the album, and it came out in March 1976. They had to record it quick because in March 1976, they then had to go off to the European leg of the world tour. So the whole album was recorded and mixed and mastered and engineered in 2 months, which is pretty quick for a Wings album, and that might be a mitigating circumstance for some of the weaker songs that are on this album. So I know the 1993 reissued CD of this album had some bonus tracks on it, but the album that I'm reviewing today is the original album. The album, as I said, came out in March 76. That was a few months shy of when I discovered the Beatles. So I got to this album around 1977, and this is my original copy of the album. Let's look at the inner. Comes in this inner sleeve. This painting by Humphrey Ocean. That there is Ian Dury, who was in a band with Humphrey Ocean, Kilburn and the High Road. Let's have a look at the vinyl. comes with a custom label matching the sleeve. That's side 1 of the vinyl, and that's side 2. And it's in pretty good nick, quite clean really. Anyway, should we get on with the review? Yeah, let's. So the album kicks off with Let 'Em In, the big first hit single from the album. And on the face of it, this is almost a throwaway song. I mean, it's just a song about people arriving at his door, isn't it? And but when you actually listen to it properly, there's so much more to it than that. There's the relentless piano, the pounding bass and kick drum. There's flutes in there. There's Joe English's military drums. There's harmonies from Denny and Linda that give it that authentic sort of Wings sound. And in a way, this is almost a perfect pop song and nothing more. We don't expect anything more and we don't get anything more, but it's the musicality of this song that I think that drives it home. And I know this is exactly the sort of song that when I first heard this in 1977, I would have thought, this is rubbish. This is rubbish. I was less than a year into my Beatles journey, and I'm a conflicted teenager because I've got the Beatles going in this ear, and in the other ear it's punk rock and I'm into that, and I've got Johnny Rotten in there, and the punk in me would say this song is rubbish. But as you get older, your tastes mellow and you're not that musical snob that you were back when you were a snotty-nosed teenager. And it's best summed up by Mull of Kintyre for me, which kind of hit around the same time in 1977. And when I first heard it, I thought, this is absolute dross, it's a dirge. And now, sort of 40 years later, I'm going, bagpipes, quite nice. And I also really like how those two notes come back loudly at the end, just when you think that you're getting a fade out. So what I think I'm trying to say about this song is that I've found a way to love it, and I do really like this song. I think it's a great pop song. Fun fact, Paul's wife Nancy has actually got a sister called Susie and a brother called John. Fantastic, eh? Anyway, Let 'Em In, I'm giving 8 out of 10. Outrageous, isn't it? So one of the main criticisms that's thrown at this album is Paul's obsession to turn Wings into a proper band, i.e. not just his backing band, and he does this in two ways really. Firstly, by dropping the Paul McCartney and from the band's name, so they're just called Wings, as you can see, not Paul McCartney and Wings. And the other thing was to give each member of the band a song to sing lead vocals. And track 2, The Note You Never Wrote, is one of those songs, so a song that's written by Paul McCartney but given to Denny Laine to sing. And I think this is a fantastic song, a really underrated song that doesn't really get much credit. I think this is possibly Denny Laine's best vocal contribution to Wings of them all, and his vocals in this song are enhanced by the amount of reverb that is put on them, and it gives it that sort of eerie feel to the song. The song is just so atmospheric. It's keyboard driven, but everyone is playing their part in this song. I love the sort of the scattered tom-toms, tightly tuned tom-toms that Joe English plays just before we get into an absolutely cracking guitar solo from Jimmy McCulloch, and the harmonies this time provided by Linda and Paul again give this song the authentic sort of Wings sound. So I think a very underrated song, but there's more going on in this song than it appears on first listen, and I'm giving this 9 out of 10. A song I really like, one of my favourites from the album. So track 3 on the album is She's My Baby, and this is where the album takes a little bit of a downward turn for me. I mean, it's a harmless song, it's very It's very sparse arrangement, and Paul does some really nice bass runs in this, and there's some very subtle guitar licks from Jimmy McCulloch. The song is about Linda, but when I first heard this song, I thought it was about a cat. And because when you first get the album, the original album doesn't come with the words, so you think the words are what you hear. And I was hearing Lap's Gravy down to the last drop. I keep mopping it up, mopping it up, mopping it up. And it's because it's a cat. It's a cat. I mean, it even mentions kitten in the lyric. It's a cat, and it's got a saucer of gravy, and it's lapping it up, but it's spilling it, so he's mopping it up. Utterly ridiculous, I know, but I was only 16. And the lyrics, when you know what they are, they're still a little bit silly, but not as ridiculous as I first thought they were when I first heard it. Now, the song has got a really nice key change at 2 minutes, which I really like, but this isn't one of the best songs on the album, and I'm going to give this one 6 out of 10. So track 4 is Beware My Love, and I absolutely love this song. It starts off really slow with this harmonium, and they use harmonium on this album quite a lot actually, and it's a harmonium and acoustic guitar intro with Linda singing lead vocals with Denny on backing vocals, and it's slow and it's intriguing, and it doesn't really hint at what we're about to get in this song. And if you kind of think that this intro doesn't really fit with the rest of the song, you're probably right, because it was recorded after the main body of the song was recorded and just tacked on the beginning. But about a minute and a half, Macca comes in with his vocals, and those that he's using those throaty vocals that he uses on Oh Darling, and after about a minute later, we kind of get into the whole main body of the song. There's a slide run down the neck of the guitar, and the whole band are in, and you're getting great big shards of guitar and thumping drums and piano, and the bass is driving it, and Macca is singing it like his life depends on it. And this song is an absolute delight for me. It was clearly written with live performance in mind, and when they did it live, they missed off that intro bit at the beginning and just went straight into the bit where I was saying that Macca is, he's using his Oh Darling voice, and they sort of start it from there, and that version sort of wipes the floor with this version. But this is an out-and-out rocker, and it is fantastic. And this song, it never gets resolved. We never get to find out who Paul's love has to beware of. We know he's a nasty piece of work, and he'll do nasty things to you. He'll sweep you under the carpet. You've got to beware of his thunder. But who is he? Nobody knows. But this song is a really great rocker for me, and I kind of feel that with this song, a little bit of greatness has returned. So I'm giving this 9 out of 10. So closing side 1 is Wino Junko, a song sung by Jimmy McCulloch and co-written by Jimmy and his old Stone the Crows bandmate Colin Allen. And like Medicine Jar before it on the Venus and Mars album, this is another song, another anti-drug song, warning about drugs and drink. And it's just a real shame that Jimmy didn't heed his own warnings, really, because 3 years later he would be dead from those very things, aged just 26. An incredible waste of talent, and absolutely brilliant lead guitarist was young Jimmy. Now this song is a gentle listen. It's a kind of keyboard driven song. The keyboards are providing the main melody. The zithers kind of add to that sort of relaxing feel, and they lead us into another cracking solo from Jimmy McCulloch. And towards the end of the song, it really kicks off with some fantastic licks from Jimmy McCulloch and superb drum and cymbal work from Joe English on drums. But this song isn't as good as Medicine Jar. It's not one of the better songs on this album either, so I'm giving this 6.5. So side 2 kicks off with Silly Love Songs, the big hit single, and like Let 'Em In before it has got very simplistic lyrics, but musically absolutely fantastic. Now this for me is the epitome of well-crafted pop music. It really does have everything. Even by Paul's standards, it has a melody that's so catchy that once it's in your head, you can't really get it out. It's got that fantastic bass line from Paul as well. Now on this song and in Let 'Em In, Paul has got his touring horn section and they're prominent on this song. Now when this song sort of was written, disco music was kind of just sort of starting to merge its way into the mainstream, and the horns on this kind of adhere to that without this being sort of full-on disco fodder. My favourite part of this song is surprisingly not the fantastic bass line from Paul, but the superb three-part harmony expertly performed by Linda, Paul and Denny that comes and goes throughout the song and builds and builds and builds, and then the horns kick in and then we have that dramatic stop and then off we go again. I love that part of the song. Yes, it is lyrically simplistic, but musically it's brilliant, and I'm giving it 10 out of 10. And what's wrong with that? I'd like to know. So side 2, track 2 is Cook of the House, a song written by Paul but given to Linda to sing. Everybody else in the band is getting a song to sing, so Paul's obviously thinking, I better give the missus one. I'll rephrase that. I better give the missus a song to sing as well. And this song is dreadful. It's part jazz, it's part 50s rock and roll. Linda doesn't particularly sing it well. The lyrics are absolutely shocking. It's just a song about food and cooking, and don't get me started on that chip fryer at the end. It absolutely grates like a big lump of cheese. It grates like a lump of cheese. That's what it does. It grates like a lump of cheese. And that was actually Linda literally frying chips in a pan. That's British chips, not American chips, because that would be ridiculous. And it's a real shame that Paul gave Linda probably one of the worst songs he'd written for years to sing. And Linda's contribution to this album is so much greater than the sum of this song. They even had the audacity to do it live on the 1979 tour, and I saw them do it live 4 times and it was horrid. The song ended up as the B-side of Silly Love Songs, and that's really what it is. It's a B-side, and a really bad B-side at that. So I'm giving this 2 out of 10. So track 3 on side 2 is Denny Lane's song Time to Hide, written by Denny Lane and sung by Denny as well. And I really think that this is Denny Lane's best contribution as a writer to Wings overall. I don't think he writes a better song on any of the other Wings albums. It's a kind of a bluesy feel to this song, which is made bluesy by the great harmonica that he plays. Very good harmonica player. Denny Lane played a lot of harmonica in the Moody Blues, and he plays it there on the intro, and the fantastic harmonica solo in the middle. The intro is interesting because it kind of fades in, so it's unusual, and it's great. Paul's bass is dancing all over this song, and the guitars are subtly funky. Fantastic harmonies throughout this song, especially when it breaks down and then comes back at sort of half speed. The harmonies, Linda and Joe English and Jimmy and Paul, fantastic harmonies on this song. A really great song, and I just love that bit at the end where Paul does that, where the last sort of Time to Hide, just before Denny sings Time to Hide, Paul does that a kind of like a wolf whistle on the bass. It's fantastic. Really great song, really like it a lot. I'm giving this 9 out of 10. So track 4 on side 2 is Must Do Something About It, written by Paul but given to Joe English to sing, and surprise surprise, Joe English can really sing. He's got a fantastic voice on the evidence of this song. Anyway, he does a really great job with it, and lyrically I think this song is one of the strongest on the album, so it's surprising that Paul gave it to someone else to sing. But also have a listen out for Jimmy McCulloch's slide guitar going about its business quietly in the background. It's great, and I really like the sort of percussive ending to this song. Now, would Paul have done a better job with this song if he had sung it? Maybe, but not on the evidence that we got on the archive collection, but that's a story for another video. But for this song on this album, I think this is worth a solid 7. The penultimate song on the album is Ferry Anne, and to be honest, it's a little bit of a disappointment. It's got a kind of a Latin feel, and horns are very prominent on it. There's flutes on it as well, but it doesn't really go anywhere for me. Paul's bass is very prominent in the mix as well, but there's nothing unpleasant to see here, but the song is just very average indeed. So I'm going to give this 6, and I think that's quite generous. So we arrive at the closing track on the album, and it's Warm and Beautiful, an absolutely classic McCartney piano ballad. I absolutely love it. Beautiful lyrics. He sings it like he means every single word. We get a really nice key change before we go into a superb slide guitar solo from Jimmy McCulloch. By the time we get to the final verse, we've got horns in there and we've got strings in there, and it brings the album to a really gorgeous close. So for me, Warm and Beautiful is another 9 out of 10. So summing up, although Wings at the Speed of Sound is not a fantastic album, it's an album that has got lots of fantastic moments on it, mixed in with some very average moments. But apart from Cook of the House, there isn't anything absolutely dreadful on this album, and I think this album is quite unfairly treated by fans. It's given short shrift from fans, and I think it's a much better album than it's given credit for. I think that although Paul wasn't writing the best songs of his career during this period, the band were absolutely firing on all cylinders. They are absolutely on top of their game. One thing that comes to the fore is how integral Linda's harmonies are to this band. What a fantastic guitarist Jimmy McCulloch was, and a fine drummer Joe English was. Absolutely fine drummer. And Paul's bass playing on this album is as good as in any other time in his career. So the band were really on it. One of the ironic things that I find about this album is when Paul is writing songs where the lyrics are not great, I still think that 2 of the best lyrics that he wrote during this period, The Note You Never Wrote and Must Do Something About It, he gave away to Denny and Joe to sing. So that's quite a strange thing about this album, and he gets a lot of stick for giving away these songs for other people to sing. But those 2 songs, Joe and Denny do a fine job with those songs. So that's my sort of summing up of Wings at the Speed of Sound. But what about you guys? What do you think about Wings at the Speed of Sound? I'd love to hear from you down in the comments. Tell me what you think of this album. Maybe you want to go and have a little listen to it and refresh your memory before you put your comment, or maybe you don't. I don't mind. But you might go and listen to it and suddenly have a different opinion of it, and you might like it a little bit more, or you might like it a little bit less. I don't know, but I want to hear about it either way. And obviously I read all your comments and I answer all your comments, so love to hear from you on that. And what did you think about my rankings? Was I too generous, too stingy? Whatever you want to say, you can say it down in the comments and I will read it. So when we add up all the scores for the songs that I've given it. Gets 81.5. There are 11 tracks on the album, so that gives it an average of 7.41. So we're going to plop it into Beatley Tone's great big album review ranking table and see where it comes. So it's above McCartney 3 and below Help. So we'll see where that album ends up as we gradually build up this table with more and more album reviews as we go through. I'll do another one in another 2 or 3 weeks. We'll have a little poll again and you can vote for the album that you want me to review. That'll be fantastic. So that's all from me. Thanks so much for watching this video. Lovely to have you here on the channel with me. Thank you for your support. I really appreciate it. And I will see you on the next video very soon. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.